Professional Edge 2021. My name's Todd. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you're having a great start to this new year as we close the door on 2020. I know it was a struggle for a lot of us as we dealt with the COVID shutdown in March of 2020. We saw the stock market go down by over 30%. That gave all our listeners here on the Professional Edge reason for pause. But this session, we're talking about New Year, New You. We all have those New Year's resolutions, but when we just make that New Year's resolution, that's not the key to getting those things accomplished. Actually, the key is to put things called action steps down to accomplish that end goal. And that might be, for example, that you want to save money. So you want to save money. That's just a goal. That's an end result. That's not an action step. So the action step, as simple as it seems, might be, I will agree to skip going out one time per month. I don't want to take that money and just put it in an envelope and save it. So again, the action step is the key to accomplishing things. So on an action step to get to that safe and secure retirement, just say, I'm going to have a written financial plan in place. So that's the action step to accomplish that end goal. And when you make that goal, that action step to have a written financial plan, then the other second key component is make a deadline. If we just say I'm going to be better financially, that does not create any action step. So we go down action step number 1, have a written financial plan. But the key thing is to have a deadline for that. So we have a 2-part of this. 1 is an action step, and number 2 is the deadline. So I'm going to have my safe and secure retirement. That's a goal, or I'm going to be better financially. That's the goal. But the action step is a written financial plan. And then B, the other component is the end deadline. So to get that in force in place, and again, 95% of our listeners here on the Professional Edge don't have this in place. They've never done it, unfortunately. And we all know that your financial responsibility to have that safe and secure retirement rests on your shoulders. So where do you begin? Well, again, the action step is to call 1-877-654-9798. That number again, 877-654-9798. Set up your initial consultation for free. We can do that via a Zoom meeting, or we can do it there at the Cunningham Center. Or if you love to drive in Atlanta traffic, you're welcome to schedule the meeting up here in Atlanta as well. So again, the action step is set the meeting. 1-877-654-9798. That number again, 877-654-9798. So the other part that we want to talk about this New Year, New You is to stay current with these Professional Edge shows. And a lot of individuals say, you know what, I would like to be able to listen to the show. I get sidetracked on Sundays. So guess what? If you go to a podcast, that can be on Audible in the iPhone or underneath Google Podcasts, and you type in Professional Edge, you'll see my picture there. I'm wearing a blue shirt and a tie sitting in front of the Cunningham Center. Then you can listen to this 24/7, 365. And if you have a beneficial show and your friend is talking about that, be sure to give them that link or pass that along and say, hey, you know what? Scene has been talking about estate planning, or why not put your kids on an account title for your asset protection. Go ahead and give them that link. Again, if you go on there and you type in Professional Edge, you'll see my picture, blue shirt, and click on that, and we're going to post some of these segments of the Professional Edge. So I appreciate that. Pass it along, the words of wisdom and the counsel that we're given here on the Professional Edge. So again, New Year, New You. So let's talk about something that's very important. Are you going to disinherit your kids? Inadvertently. Now, you as a listener here on the Professional Edge, I'm not sure you want to intentionally disinherit your kids, but you may very well inadvertently disinherit your kids. Here's how you can do that, and it scares me to death because the largest financial asset that most of our listeners have on the Professional Edge is their 401k account or a rollover IRA account. It's their largest financial asset. Now, a lot of our listeners, half of them have an estate plan in place, and their will document or estate planning document says, I give everything to my spouse. If my spouse doesn't survive, remainder to my kids. Got it. Perfect. All signed, drafted. It's a valid estate plan. On their beneficiary designation on their IRA, which we talked about, supersedes whatever you have in your last will and testament, says, I give everything to my surviving spouse. Contingent beneficiary being my kids. Sounds good? It's probably 99% of what listeners on the Professional Edge have in place on their 401k or IRA beneficiary designation. Now, being younger with life longevity, individual lives till age 67, retired at 62, rolled over his 401k into his self-directed IRA, beneficiary designation, primary being spouse, contingent being kids equally, unfortunate heart attack. Boom, everything over to wife. Pretty good, pretty easy, right? So the wife being 67 years of age, likelihood she's going to live another 20 years. Likelihood she's probably going to meet Romeo, number 2, and they're going to get married. And guess what Romeo number 2 has? His brother is a stockbroker. So we're going to move this account over to the brother stockbroker, and by default, not paying attention to details, that brother-in-law stockbroker ends up putting the primary beneficiary, Romeo number 2. Primary beneficiary, contingent beneficiaries, the kids. Well, lo and behold, wife passes away. So where does this IRA go? Well, goes to Romeo number 2. Even though the wife may have had, I hereby give $100,000 to Romeo number 2, remainder to my kids equally. Well, guess what? Being a listener here on the Professional Edge, you realize that beneficiary designations supersede whatever the estate planning documents state. So therefore, the wife had this misunderstanding that Romeo number 2 was going to receive only $100,000. But the beneficiary designation on the IRA account, which went over to the brother-in-law of Romeo number 2, or the brother of Romeo number 2, the beneficiary designation said it went to Romeo number 2 as primary. Guess what? The kids of the wife and husband number 1, who earned all this money, are completely disinherited. Now, that's the inadvertent disinheritance of your children. So to avoid that, we structure things differently. Being a tax attorney, with the concentration of the practice being on estate planning and asset protection, we implement a integrated estate plan. So therefore, you don't inadvertently disinherit your kids. You got to put this in place and in force and in effect. And I will guarantee the listeners here on the Professional Edge that 99% of you have your spouse as a primary beneficiary, your kids as a contingent beneficiary, but you fail to take into account that if the spouse passes away, there's a very high likelihood they're going to get remarried. And then over the course in time, no one's watching, no one's paying attention to detail, that the next spouse becomes the primary beneficiary. And when the first surviving spouse passes away, it rolls over to that new spouse. That new spouse is in 100% control. And they can leave it to their kids wow, they just disinherited your own kids inadvertently. It wasn't intentional. It was just inadvertent, and you're not paying attention to detail. So you, in your mind, as a listener here on the Professional Edge, know, or a lot of people don't know, who the primary and contingent beneficiary is on their IRA or 401k. So again, it's a new year, new you. Find this out. Let's take care of this. Let's pay some attention to detail. So again, on your New Year's resolution, number one, I'm going to pay attention to details, fix estate plan, or B, find out who my beneficiary designations are. It's simple. Go into your account plan, pull your beneficiary document, and see who they are. And if it says spouse first, kids contingent beneficiaries in equal distribution, or 60-40, however you say, that right there is your call to action, which says, I do not want to disinherit my kids inadvertently. So give our office a call at 877-654-9798. That number again, 877-654-9798. And that is a wake-up call that you have the potential to inadvertently disinherit your kids from your largest financial asset. That's a wake-up call for the listeners here on the Professional Edge. I don't want to inadvertently disinherit my kids. So I can structure this, or our clients that we work with at estate management counselors, we structure this to where A, the surviving spouse can use it, have access to those IRA account assets, but when the surviving spouse passes away, they could be remarried to Romeo number two. Romeo number two is not going to inherit these assets. They are going to go to the kids of the first marriage by operation of law. Romeo number two can challenge it, hammer the table, say this is not right, this is not fair, and the wife can't change it. So you, the husband who passes away first, who earned this substantial asset for the family, is going to know with certainty that your kids will not be disinherited inadvertently. So if that's of interest to you, again, 877-654-9798. That number again, 877-654-9798. We have a new year, a new you, and Happy New Year to everyone listening here on the Professional Edge. It's an exciting 2021. And again, pass this along. We are on the podcast now of Professional Edge. Google it, look it up on Audible, and pass it along to other individuals who can benefit from this show. And wish you well. Stay tuned next week. This is Todd, tax attorney, CPA, and certified financial planner. Have a wonderful and productive week.
We've all thought about it. Everyone listening will need one. Not having one can cause untold heartache, family conflict escalating to the point of a lawsuit. One simple thing that avoids all that: an effective estate plan. As a practicing tax attorney, Todd with Estate Management Counselors has completed over 1,000 estate plans during his 15 years of professional practice. He can help you implement an effective estate plan, coordinate your financial accounts, and make sure you have named the proper beneficiaries to maximize your tax savings. Call 877-654-9798 today and let tax attorney Todd help you implement an effective estate plan. Call 877-654-9798 today. As a tax attorney, CPA for over 15 years, Todd has implemented over 1,000 individual estate plans. He has recently authored an especially helpful guide, How to Unlock the Ultimate Estate Plan. This guide has helped many individuals to understand the benefits of an estate plan and how to avoid unintended disasters. has made every attempt to write this in plain English. To receive this valuable guide, How to Unlock the Ultimate Estate Plan, call 1-877-654-9798 and request your complimentary copy today, or by emailing your request to info@emcadvisors.net.